Thank you for joining me. This is Laurie, and today I wanted to show you a sort of a project trick. I have two pieces of fabric, and I'm going to make a little scrap bag, I guess we'll call it. It's kind of like my own design, but it follows in with the simplicity pattern that we've been working from 8235. The thing is, I have these two pieces of fabric that I wanted to use. This overblown rose print on this beautiful tealy blue background is the outer fabric that I wanted to use. And it is, I believe, an 18 by 22, let me check. Which is basically a single cut fat quarter. And it did come in a pack with several other pieces of fabric. The lining fabric is a piece of fabric that I purchased a long time ago, at least a year ago, and I actually think it was more like a year and a half ago, potentially 2 years ago. It is an art gallery fabric. I found it on Amazon. It is also 100% cotton. The thing is, this piece of fabric is cut wonky. As you can see, there's been a piece removed over here. This has been cut, and then there's been a piece removed right here. So, since I want to line this with this, I'm going to have to piece the lining fabric, or else I'm going to have to trim my outer fabric to match it up. Alright, so as you can see, I have created a patch right across the top edge where I had that piece of fabric that was missing from what I wanted to use. I ended up using a hem stitch, which is a setting on my sewing machine, a Bernina 1080, that's like over 20 years old. But you know, that's a stitch that you can either do by hand, or a lot of times you can just use a zigzag. Just attach the two pieces of fabric and then trim away the excess fabric using scissors that won't cut the fabric on the back of your stitches. So this is like a safety for heirloom sewing when you're doing lace shaping or insertion fabric. And you can just kind of get close. Now, I'm not too concerned about this because this clearly will be inside of my project. This is the only part that will show, and it's likely going to be up either, depending on how I orient this, it'll either be at the top, completely invisible, or it will be on the side, and again, completely invisible to anyone who is looking. But I did need a piece of fabric here, obviously, to match up with my outer fabric. Okay, so now I have to decide how I want my fabric to be oriented for this project. In other words, do I want it to be, 18 by 22 and have the basket meet this way, or do I want to have it this way? In other words, do I want height over width or width over height? I'm just kind of smoothing out some wrinkles. And the next thing I'll do is add my fusible fleecy interfacing that will give it a lot of body, so that will help it stand up. Okay. So the interesting thing about this particular size range is I could cut this in half and have two small scrap bags, or I could just use it as it is and have one larger. So I think what I'll do is go this way. I want more volume. So I'm going to attach it on the 18-inch side and use the 22 inches as the volume. So I'll have more room to put stuff in here. Okay, so the next thing is then to put this fleecy interfacing on the lining. And I have scraps, so I'll be using scraps and piecing all of that together as well. The first thing I want to mention is I'm keeping it out of my seam allowance on the side and across the top. So when I look at this, I need to make sure that I'm trimming off at the appropriate place. And you really, can't really tell that that's what's happening on the pretty side. Remember, when we left off, the little scrap basket that we're making, I was folding the outer edge toward the inside and the inner edge toward the outside, and then clipped all the way around the top. And I'm just going to stitch right around the top, removing these clips as I go. And I will just be doing a straight stitch. I always like to kind of start on a corner or the side seam. It just makes it easier for me that way. And I'm just going to wrap it around the arm of my like this needs to come down even more for stability. It's a little on the top heavy side. So I'm just folding and making kind of a cuff with the, there, that is exactly what I wanted right there. So that will stay open. I don't have to do anything. It'll stay wide open. I've still got plenty of room inside for just about anything I would want to put in here. And I love the fact that it just extra layers of fabric. It would give it a really solid bottom in there. But the thing is, once you put stuff in here, it's pretty solid. I don't think it's gonna fall. I don't think it's gonna flip over. I mean, I've got my my art pins right here. This Ziploc bag, by the way, is over 2 years old. It's about maybe 3 years old. And someone gave it to me for me to put these pins in. I didn't choose this myself, but I was afraid it would just get tossed if I didn't use it. So there's that. Okay, so there's the plastic bag with my pins. The reason I'm using it is because I don't want the ink to get on anything else, so I just tend to use this bag, especially for transport. It's a lot easier than trying to find something else to put them in. So there's that. I also have goodness, I don't know, I just have all kinds of things. Here's a notebook that I can poke in here. I think I'll put this little bag of lavender that I've saved from my daughter's wedding. It smells good, and it would be nice to have it out. Easy. Me a bassoon, I would be completely lost. So learning how to do something that I've not ever had instruction in before has been a challenge. But again, I do appreciate your kindness and the positivity that I get from you guys.